Hey there, welcome back. It's season 2 of PowerBytes with its shorter, punchier new format. You're going to love it. Our guest today, I must say, we're just blessed to have her because it is such a challenge to get this very hard to get woman, trust me. I feel quite silly introducing you, honestly, because who doesn't know you?
Thank you very much. It's
But
very
in
generous.
any case, here goes. So our guest today is Rana Nawas, keynote speaker, strategic advisor, and podcaster, internationally acclaimed podcaster. You could say that the reach of her podcast is literally sky high. Rana, thank you so much. We beat the odds and here you are. I really appreciate it. And this, to me, is a perfect illustration of women supporting each other. And it brings me nicely to my first question, which is something we both have discussed a lot at Elevate and otherwise. The perception that we women could be doing a lot more to support each other.
Yep.
What are your thoughts on that?
I think that's true. You know, in all my podcast interviews, I end with a question for the guest, which is, what is the question you'd like people to ask you more often? And you've just asked me mine, right? Because that's the question I wish people would ask me more often is, how can women support women more? And the answer is really easy. It's to be an amplifier.
Yes.
Okay, it's to really be that amplifier. So women, we all, you know, every woman I know is achieving amazing things.
Yeah.
But women have this double bind on self-promotion, right? We're not comfortable to shine a light on our achievements.
Yes.
And actually, sometimes we're right, because when we do, we might get penalized for it. Now, the worst thing you can do is not self-promote, right? And sit back and hope that the business gods will notice your amazing performance and you'll get rewarded for it. But the fact of the matter is that, you know, if success spoke for itself, companies wouldn't need marketing departments.
Absolutely.
Okay, so how do we, one way to get around that necessity of shining the light on your achievements is to get other women to do it for you. And how do you do that? By doing that for other women. So really, it's for women to act as an amplifier. So you can create a mastermind group, which is like a tribe of 6, and you do this for each other.
Yes.
Or it doesn't have to be structured like that. It could be in a group setting, or just walking the company and just say, you know, hey, did you hear? You know, Bina closed that deal last week, or you know, Rana got that promotion or raise or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, you celebrate others' achievements.
Yes.
This is something we really can and should be doing more of. So that's one way of amplifying, is to amplify achievements.
Okay.
And you know, and even you know, there's 2 other ways. One is, for example, in meetings. So there's a thing in meetings. It's a global epidemic, right? Women get interrupted a lot more than men. Their ideas get neglected, and then sometimes, like, a man will pipe up with the same idea 5 minutes later, and oh, he's a genius, right? So women are routinely interrupted, mansplained to, and their ideas appropriated. Okay, and I've done a little video.
Yes.
You've seen the little video I've done on meetings, yeah? So what can women and men, by the way, do in a meeting setting is when a woman voices a good idea, to amplify her voice. So, Bina, that's a great idea, because that would do. A few minutes later, hey, that sounds a lot like Bina's great idea.
Yes.
So you're amplifying within the meeting setting so that a woman's ideas are recognized, appreciated, and that she's given credit for.
And she isn't fighting it on her own.
Right, exactly. And the third thing that comes to mind is, if you have friends who started businesses, support them, you know, and you can do that in many ways. Number 1, post about their businesses on social media. Number 2, buy from them. Don't call your friends and say, hey, I hear you started a business, can you give me a discount? That's not supporting your friend.
Exactly.
Right? So shine a light through social media on their business, buy from them. And if you work in a corporate setting, try to get your company to buy from them.
Yeah.
You know? So these are really practical, everyday things that women can do to support women.
That's really amazing. So is this something that you address in your speaking, consulting alongside so many other things that you do. Would you like to tell us about the other areas of your life?
Sure. So my podcast is effectively my PhD, right? So every week I talk to an incredible woman who really grows me and helps me evolve my thinking, right? So a lot of the things that I talk about come from these ideas like that from the guests I meet. Another thing that I do is deliver keynote speeches. So I do that at conferences and at a corporate level. And I do it on a variety of topics. And it could be like 600, 800 people in a room, like a company's global D&I summit or something like that. And I really enjoy that work because keynote speeches are really good at lighting the fire. So I work very closely with my client, very closely and for a long time before the speech to make sure that they're getting the result that they want. So, what's the output? What does success look like? And it's usually a feeling. What's that feeling we're going for? Inspire is too broad. We don't just want to inspire, we want to galvanize. So what do you want to achieve with that inspiration? So I really, really enjoy the keynote speeches because it's an ability to move the needle for hundreds of people at once. Right? And then the Q&A session is very educational for me and very helpful, to them because then we really get deeper. So I that's another sort of pillar of my activity. And then the third one really is the consulting work. So strategic advisory, typically to big corporate, to help them get more women to the top. So that's where I go in and I dive into their policies and their processes and their culture. And figure out what levers we need to pull to fix things to make it a better place for women to thrive.
So at sort of a two-pronged from the top, it's a bird's eye view as well as actually changing the processes.
Exactly. So the way I look at it is the speeches help you move the needle for hundreds of people. But when you go in and fix an organization, that can impact thousands of people at once. And then the podcast is there to support millions of people. So that's kind of how I look at my work.
That makes perfect sense. So I believe that it's important in anything we do to close the loop. You stop to reflect and evaluate and learn, do your course correction before you proceed, right?
Sure.
So from all your learnings and the effect that you've seen it's had, what's next for Rana Nawas?
Well, you heard it here first.
Ooh, nice.
I've learned so much through my journey from running the GE Women's Network, from running Elevate. My work on gender parity started 8 years ago. And then
ahead of its time.
Well ahead, long before it was fashionable, at least in this region. So through GE Women's Network, through Elevate, my podcast, my keynotes, through my advisory, I've learned so much. And I've been approached by 2 different literary agents to write a book.
Wow.
So I signed with one of them. And thank you. 2020 is the year of the book.
That's awesome.
Don't ask me any details. I don't really know yet. But that's what's next.
It's been set in motion.
It's been set in motion. And it's really, I think, necessary to weave the thread between all of these things. I mean, it's all under the same umbrella of helping women win. That's clear to me, right? But it's time to tie everything together in a way that's easier for people to benefit from it. And maybe even for myself to really crystallize it in something. So I'm really looking forward to that process.
We look forward to it too. Remember, you heard that here on PowerBytes. So Rana, the new format. You ask me a question now. So go for it.
All right. Now, you said somewhere, I read somewhere that you do NLP.
Yes, I'm a master NLP coach. That's
master NLP coach. Right. What is the difference between NLP and Voodoo? Because NLP, I don't know what that is.
Okay. So the basic difference is that in NLP, we don't have a doll and we don't use pigs.
Oh, well then, okay.
Before the ANLP holds me up. Kidding. Voodoo, all I know of it is what Hollywood has taught me, so the doll and the pins. So as far as I understand, it's something that an external force applies to an individual, and usually for the destruction of said individual. So I can assure you NLP is the polar opposite. So NLP works on the premise that nobody is broken and nobody needs to be fixed. We all have within us all the resources we need. So why then, you would ask, can we not access these resources when we need to? So what happens is those resources are sort of clouded up by all the beliefs and behaviors that we have learned and formed along the way, usually when you were really young. So it never ceases to amaze me how a grown-ass 40-year-old adult will revert in a flash to their 5-year-old self in a situation, because that's where that belief or behavior was formed.
Interesting.
Okay, now at that time, that behavior served the 5-year-old. It's obviously not going to serve the 40-year-old. And that's where you get this impasse, where you find you're unable to move any further. So we know we can't change the past. But what NLP allows you to do is to go back to the past, to the event where you formed that limiting belief or behavior, and change the association you have with it, the meanings that you applied to it, the beliefs and behaviors you formed as a result of it. So once you've changed that, you've completely altered the course of who you are today and where you're going to go in the future.
So is it like hypnosis?
Hypnosis is one of the tools that we use.
Okay.
So basically, it's, if I were to sum it up, people have a clear vision of their goal. They know what they want. They know what they have, and yet they find they're unable to connect the two. Why am I unable to make this happen? So using NLP, we find out what that obstacle is, the limiting belief, behavior, what is it that is keeping you from using all that you have and reaching something you're very clear about getting. Perhaps the motivation for your getting this is not the right one.
Does this work for children?
It works for everyone of all ages. And I love when people ask about children, because that's where it's being formed, right? So, for instance, if somebody says, you suck at math, the learning, the belief that comes out of it could be, I suck.
Yeah.
Or I suck at studies.
Or I suck at science.
Yeah. And they, in the course of growing up, they forget what that event was. And one person who said it once, but that's it. And the rest of their life, imagine they're choosing the academic stream they're going to take, the job they're going to, all based on that.
One potentially bad teacher.
Yeah. So,
or parent. Yeah.
Or they get into something in science and they want to get there, and they find, I'm unable to get that promotion or go for that higher degree, or I don't know what's holding me back. Once we clear this, that limiting belief is converted into an empowering one. And then that will propel you towards your goal faster.
Nice.
So yeah, so I love that. I mean, I never ever thought I would find myself comparing voodoo and NLP, but I can see where you would get that, because the effect is quite magical. The transformation that can happen, I work in the telecom sector, so I always say I moved from prepaid and postpaid plans to life plans. It's just amazing when you see that shift happen. And the person who's walking out from your session isn't the one who walked in.
How many sessions does it take to get it?
It depends on the person. It depends. I customize it according to each person, but it's an amazing process, and it's just based on science. It's creating new neural pathways. So where your brain had one fixed meaning for something, you now create new neural pathways. You're giving it choice, because choice is always better than no choice. And where in the past you would keep doing the same thing, shuttling between this meaning and then saying, I don't know why things aren't changing, you now say, maybe I'll try this or this. And of course you're going to get a different result. Clearer on NLP?
Got it, thank you.
So we should be done, but I have to ask you this question. Once I ask you, you'll know why, because it has somebody who's very dear to my heart in it. As the mother of 2 daughters, I really would love to know how you integrate all that you're doing into being the mother of 2 very cute little boys. I'm a huge fan, and she knows it. And also, what role does Sam and you play in shaping future men and their thinking?
Yeah. So listen, I take the role as a parent of boys very, very seriously, because we can and we should and we are telling our girls, you can be whatever you want, you can do whatever you like. But we have to make the boys believe that too.
Yes.
Right? You can't just charge women up, you know, and meanwhile the men are thinking, no, she can't.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
So actually, I think the parents of boys, and I say parents on purpose because the mother has a big role to play and the father has a big role to play. Parents of boys have a massive responsibility in getting society to gender parity.
Yes.
And you know, I mean, these men that grow into you know, sexual harassers, sexual predators, or just really gender biased, discriminating against women in the workplace, right? These are all, like you were saying, these are triggers that came at a very early age, right? Somebody communicated that that's how you're supposed to be, or that it's okay to be like that. You know, the role models you had. So role modeling is so important. Absolutely. We need to, and this is like applies to everything and everyone, but we need to role model the right behavior. And we need to really tackle toxic masculinity. Yes. And there's more and more talk about that and more focus on that. And we need to keep that up. I think what it means at home on a day-to-day basis is being very, very intentional about the language we use. Yes. Number one, language matters. Yep. Number two, don't let anything slide. Okay. So casual sexism starts very young. Yes. So already by the age of 4, my son, so I'll tell you a story. We're sat around the kitchen table, me and my son, my husband, my mom, and then my son said something like, you know, of course the train driver's a man. You know, women aren't strong enough. He was 4. Wow. And you can imagine, you know what I do, right? So he did not get this at home. And you can imagine what my mom and my husband were like, what's about to happen? Yeah. And then what happened is when I get really, really angry, my voice drops. Okay. I get really quiet. And so I started probing. Why do you say that? And so, you know, a lot of education and casual sexism has to be nipped in the bud. Absolutely. And language really matters. Like, for example, the kids are not allowed to say policeman or fireman or anything like that. It's police officer. It's firefighter. Yes. And, you know, and I do things like, their pediatrician is a woman. Yeah. They're doctors, so they see a woman doctor. You know, for the first few years of their life, they've only seen a woman doctor. Yes. So to them, that's the reality. It's a given. Yeah. They don't know that male doctors exist. Yeah. But we need to be very intentional about exposing our kids to these role models. Yeah. You know?
And I'm sure seeing their mom out there kicking and being a boss lady, that's going to raise the bar and make some future girls' lives very difficult.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah. My intention is to make girls' lives easier. But yeah, I mean, I think the role of parents is so important. The role of role models, and we have to be really focused and intentional. It's like with anything, Bina. Yes. Like any business priority, you don't just expect it to work out. No. You know,
the groundwork has to be done.
Yeah, it's like you want it to happen. Yeah. You know, we want to make more money. Great. We want more gender parity. Great. But just because you want it doesn't mean it's going to happen. Exactly. But you have to be intentional. You have to have a strategy. You have to have tactics. You have to, you know, and it's the same with raising decent humans.
Spot on. It's a project.
Yeah.
It is a project, and it needs planning.
You need to be intentional.
And you guys are doing such a great job. If the video of you getting the little flower because you are special is anything to go by, they know they need to express appreciation. So
thank you.
Job well done.
Thank you. Well, I mean, you know, there's still only 3 and 5, so there's plenty of work.
But trust me, these are the years. I keep saying, you know, if we could fix those years, we wouldn't have any clients.
So they say that at the age of 5, girls and boys have the same level of confidence. By the age of 6, girls believe that boys are smarter. And girls and boys believe that boys are smarter and stronger by the age of 6. So something is happening. This is a Princeton study. Between the ages of 5 and 6, which is the start of school, really, in most places. So we really need to be, you're right, that this is the time.
The critical age. Thank you so much, Rana. And remember, you heard it right here on PowerBytes.